All right, we are in chapter 2, and the title of this is What Lucy Found There. So, the title of our book was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and it's by C.S. Lewis. And in the previous chapter, we remember that Lucy found the wardrobe. She started going through the wardrobe, and she found an interesting creature at the end of chapter 1. So, here we go. Chapter 2, What Lucy Found There. "Good evening," said Lucy. But the fawn was so busy picking up its parcels that it did not reply at first. When it finished, it made a little bow. Good evening, said the fawn. "Excuse me, I don't want to be inquisitive, but should I be right in thinking that you're the daughter of Eve?" "My name is Lucy," she said, not quite understanding. "But you are, forgive me, you are what they call a girl?" asked the fawn. "Of course I'm a girl," said Lucy. "You are in fact human?" "Of course I'm human," said Lucy, really confused. To be sure," said the fawn. "How silly of me! But I've never seen the son of Adam or the daughter of Eve before. I'm delighted, that is to say," and then he stopped as if he was going to say something that he'd not meant to, but he remembered. Delighted, and he went on. "Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tumnus, and I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy. "May I ask, O Lucy, daughter of Eve," said Mr. Tumnus, "how come you came into Narnia?" "Narnia? What's that?" said Lucy. "This is the land of Narnia," said the fawn, "where we are now. All that lies between the lamp and the post and the great castle of Parvel on the eastern side. And you have come from the wild woods of the west?" I got here through the wardrobe in a spare room," said Lucy. "Ah," said Mr. Tumnus, in a rather melancholy voice, "if only I had worked harder at geography when I was a little fawn, I should no doubt about these strange countries. But it's too late now. I don't know where that is." They aren't countries at all," said Lucy, almost laughing. "It's just back there, at least. I'm not sure. I think it's summer there, but it's winter here." Meanwhile, Mr. Tumnus says, "It is winter in Narnia, and it has been for ever so long. We shall both catch a cold if we stand here talking in the snow. Daughter of Eve from the far land of Sparehome, where eternal summer reigns in the bright city of Wardrobe. How would it be if you came and had a hot tea with me?" "Thank you very much, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy, "but I was wondering whether I ought to be getting back or not." "It's only just around the corner," said the fawn, "and there'll be a roaring fire, and toast and sardines and cake." "Well, it's very kind of you," said Lucy, "but I really shouldn't be able to stay long." "If you will take my arm, daughter of Eve," said Mr. Tumnus, "I shall be able to hold the umbrella over both of us. That's the way. Now off we go." And so Lucy found herself walking through the woods arm in arm with a strange creature as if they'd only known each other their whole entire lives. They hadn't gone far before they came to a place where the ground became rough and there were rocks all about and little hills up and down. At the bottom of one valley, Mr. Tumnus suddenly turned aside as if he were going to walk straight into an unusually large rock, but at the last moment Lucy found he was leading her into the entrance of a cave. As soon as they were inside, she found herself blinking in the light of a wood fire. Then Mr. Tumnus stooped down and looked at the flame and took out a little piece of fire with tongs and lit a lamp. "Now, we shan't be long," he said, and immediately put a kettle on. Lucy, though she had never been in a nicer place, it was a little dry, it was clean for a cave of reddish stone, and it had carpet on the floor with 2 little chairs, "one for me and one for a friend," said Mr. Tumnus, "and a table and a dresser and a mantel piece over the fire that had a picture of an old fawn with a gray beard. In the corner there was a door, in which Lucy thought that must lead to Mr. Tumnus's bedroom. On one wall was a shelf full of books. Lucy looked at these for a while, setting out the tea. They had tiles like the life and the letters of Silencius, and a lot of other books. "Now, daughter of Eve," said the fawn, "and it really is a wonderful place, and the tea is wonderful. There's a nice brown egg lightly boiled for each of them, and that they had sardines and toast, and buttered toast, and toast with honey, and sugar top cake. When Lucy was tired of eating, the fawn began to talk. He had wonderful tales to tell of the life in the forest. He told about midnight dances and how the nymphs who live in the wells and the dryads who lived in the trees came out to dance with the fawns. About long hunting parties and about milk-white stag who would give you the wishes if you caught him. About feasting and treasure-seeking and the wild red dwarfs in the deep mines and the caverns far beyond the forest floor, and about the summer when the woods were green and old Silence and his fat donkey would come to visit them. And sometime Bacchus himself, then the streams would run with wine instead of water, and the whole forest would give itself up to weeks on end. Now it isn't always winter now, he added. Then to cheer himself up, he looked out from the case on the dresser. A strange little flute that looks as if it was made of straw, he began to pick up and play. And the tune he made Lucy want to cry and laugh and dance and go to sleep all at the same time. It must have been hours later when she shook herself and said, "Oh, Mr. Tumnus, I'm so sorry to stop you. I do love that tune, but I really must go home. I was only meant to stay for a few minutes." "It's no good now, you know," said the fawn, laying down his flute and shaking his head at her very sadly. "No good," said Lucy, jumping up and feeling frightened. "What do you mean? I've got to go home. The others are going to be wondering what happened to me." But a moment later she asked, "Mr. Tumnus, whatever is the matter?" For the fawn's brown eyes had filled with tears, and the tears began trickling down its cheeks, and soon they were running off the end of his nose, and at last it covered his face and his hands, and he began to howl. "Mr. Tumnus, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy, in great distress. Don't, what's the matter? Aren't you well, dear Mr. Tumnus? Tell me what's wrong." But the fawn continued sobbing as if his heart was broken. And even when Lucy went over to put his arms around him, he lent her his handkerchief, and he did not stop. He merely took the handkerchief and kept using it and wringing it out with both hands. And whenever it got too wet to be used anymore, Lucy was standing there in a puddle of water. "Mr. Tumnus," bawled Lucy in his ear, shaking him. "Do stop! Stop at once! You ought to be ashamed of yourself, you great big fawn like you. What on earth are you crying about?" Oh, sobbed Mr. Tumnus. "I'm crying because I'm such a bad fawn." "I don't think you're a bad fawn at all," said Lucy. "I think you're a very good fawn. You're the nicest fawn I've ever met." "Oh, you wouldn't say that if you knew," replied Mr. Tumnus between his sobs. "No, I'm a bad fawn. I don't suppose there ever was a worse fawn in the beginning of the world." "What have you done?" asked Lucy. "My old father now," said Mr. Tumnus. "That's his picture over the mantelpiece. He would have never done anything like this." "Like what?" said Lucy. "Like what I've done," said the fawn. "Taken service under the White Witch. That's what I am. I'm in the pay of the White Witch." "The White Witch? Who is she? And why is it that she's got all Narnia under her thumb? It's that she makes it always winter and never Christmas. Think of that." "How awful," said Lucy. "Always winter and never Christmas? But what does she pay you for?" "That's the worst of it," said Mr. Tumnus with a deep groan. "I'm a kidnapper for her. That's what I am. Look at me, daughter of Eve. Would you believe that I'm that sort of fawn, to meet a poor innocent child in the woods, one that's never done any harm, and pretend to be friendly with it, and invite it home to my cave, all for the sake of lulling it to sleep and handing it over to the White Witch?" "No," said Lucy, "you wouldn't do that." "I have," said the fawn. "Well," said Lucy slowly, because she wanted him to be truthful, "that was pretty bad. But you're sorry for what you did, and you're never going to do it again." "Daughter of Eve, you don't understand," said the fawn. "It isn't something that I've done. I'm doing it now, at this very moment." "What do you mean?" cried Lucy, turning very white. "You are the child," said Tumnus. "I had orders from the White Witch that if I ever saw the son of Adam or the daughter of Eve in the woods, that I was to catch them and hand them over to her. And you're the first I ever met. And I pretended to be your friend, and I asked you to tea. And all the time I've been meaning to wait until you were asleep and then go and tell her." "Oh, but you won't, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy. "You won't, will you?" Indeed, you really mustn't." "And if I don't," he began to cry, She's sure to find out, and she'll have my tail cut off and my horn sawed off and my beard plucked out, and she will wave her wand over my beautifully cloven hoofs and turn them into solid hoofs like a wretched horse, and if she's extra and specially angry, she'll turn me into stone, and I shall only be a statue of a fawn in her horrible house until the 4 thrones at Kiar Prevail are filled, and goodness knows when that will happen, or if it will ever happen. I'm very sorry, Mr. Tumnus, said Lucy, but please let me go home. Of course I will, said the fawn. Of course I've got to. I see now I haven't known what humans are like before I met you, and of course I can't give you up to the witch, not now that I know you, but we must be off at once. I'll see you back to the lamppost. I suppose we can find our way back to the wardrobe on your own. I'm sure I can, said Lucy. We must go quietly as we can, said Mr. Tumnus. The whole woods are full of her spies. Some of them are in the trees on her side. They both got up and left the tea things on the table, and Mr. Tumnus once more put up his umbrella, gave Lucy his arm, and they went out into the snow. The journey back was not at all like the journey to the fawn's cave. They stole along as quickly as they could without speaking a word, and Mr. Tumnus kept to the darkest places. Lucy was relieved when they reached the lamppost again. Do you know your way from here, daughter of Eve? Said Tumnus. Lucy looked very hard between the trees and could just see in the distance a patch of light that looked like daylight. Yes, she said, I can see the wardrobe door. Then go off as soon as you can, said the fawn. And can you forgive me for what I've done to you? Of course I can, said Lucy, shaking him by the hand heartily. And I hope that you won't get into dreadful trouble on my account. Farewell, daughter of Eve, he said. Perhaps can I keep the handkerchief? Rather, said Lucy, and she ran towards the far-off patch of daylight as quickly as her legs would carry her. And presently, instead of rough branches in her path, And presently, instead of rough branches brushing past her, she felt coats, and instead of crunching snow, she felt wooden boards, and all at once she found herself jumping out of the wardrobe into the same empty room from which the whole adventure had started. She shut the wardrobe door tightly behind her and looked around, panting for breath. It was still raining, and she could hear the voices of others in the passage. I'm here, she shouted. I'm here. I've come back, and I'm all right.